Today we will talk about Casper and the IPwe Chapter 11 bankruptcy that was just put out and made public. And I will also explain what that actually means and the possibilities for Casper Labs, and why I don't think that this will significantly impact what Casper has been trying to do, especially in the long term, because they operate on an enterprise and institutional adoption timeline. So I put out a poll last night, and it seems like it hasn't moved a lot, but I was asking what the first thoughts on the RIP IPwe news were for Casper holders, and about 25% think that it's a good time to actually buy, and about it's a bit over 1/3 each want to hold or get out of it. And this was interesting for me, even though I was expecting it. But it's interesting because I don't necessarily think impulsive choices are the best, especially for crypto like Casper, where they haven't really even rolled anything out yet that will show how valuable that they actually are. Okay, so here is the actual Chapter 11 filing link here. Now we know why 25 million patents not being minted on the Casper chain. I do have a little bit more on that I will cover as I make my points on why I don't think that this might be the end of the IP NFTs and IP information on Casper. But for now, we will talk about the actual bankruptcy filing itself, and then I will explain why this might not be all that bad, at least for Casper Labs. So this was put in on January 24th. They had about 100K to 500K of assets, with about 10 to 20 times that in terms of debt. And it sounds like they just weren't able to turn things around with how they were currently operating. And that is why they decided to declare that they are, in fact, bankrupt. And the Chapter 11 part is actually important, as I will touch on in a little bit again. So why is it such bad news for us right now, and why are a lot of people actually having an issue with it? Well, they had been announcing a lot of very large companies actually wanting to put their patents on the Casper network, and I have talked about each of these a couple of times. So if you're impulsively getting out of Casper because one single partnership didn't work at this point, you haven't done enough research, and you are not going to make it. Did you buy Casper because IPwe, or because of the fundamentals? I initially was extremely interested in Casper because of IPwe, but then after I learned more, it became more and more attractive for me. IPwe is only one thing, and the only thing that I'm disappointed about is the activity the network is missing out on right now. Okay, so why is everyone freaking out about IPwe filing for Chapter 11 reorganization? That is essentially what a bankruptcy actually is for corporations, and it works a lot in the same way if you or I were to actually declare it as well. But I think it turns into Chapter 13. I don't know off of the top of my head, actually. So he has been through one at his last company. It has nothing to do with them and Casper. Besides the fact, now we know why they said that they have been behind schedule. It will still be the largest uh, blockchain smart contract deployment in history. The IPwe bankruptcy thing is a joke, and it just goes to show that most retail traders are not cut out for holding in the long term. Were people who bought Casper in the last 2 years really relying only on IPwe minting to pump bags? I don't think so. I think the AI thing is probably longer term much more valuable than the IPwe thing is anyway. But IPwe would probably kick into actual value on chain a little bit quicker than what Casper is working on in AI, in my own interpretation. So, with IPwe filing for bankruptcy, maybe Casper Network just outright purchases them. It didn't look like they were too much in debt, relatively speaking. So, an interesting thing is, I find it hard to believe that Casper Labs wouldn't have been aware of their financials. I think this could come out in the wash as a big nothing burger in the grander scheme of things. Now, I tend to agree with that, especially after I learned more over the last 12 to 24 hours or so. And here's that point. I think it's just a reorganization to have a healthier balance sheet. So, Chapter 11 can allow a business that is experiencing financial difficulties to regroup and get back on track. However, it is complex, costly, and time consuming. So, the term bankruptcy outside of the large financial kinds of industries has a very bad connotation. However, it is technically a reorganization. So they do have to do a lot of things, and I am not an expert on this, but it is essentially allowing them to continue to operate, but they just have to reorganize a lot of their assets and debt in order to continue on in a more sustainable way. So this is where I talk about why I don't really think it's a big deal. So what if this was the IPwe plan all along? If they need cash, tokenizing all existing patents will create much needed liquidity to help them financially through the reorganization. It's possible they still plan to mint on Casper, and I do have some information that shows a lot of activity, and I comment on this. I find it funny that this happens right after Casper hosted and was involved in a lot of events up in Davos. It sounds odd. So he responded, IBM might just actually purchase IPwe, which would make some sense. So here is a little bit more on what Casper was involved in 2024 that makes, or in Davos 2024, that makes me a lot more confident about actually continuing to hold. So to put this quickly, it is IBM's chosen chain for responsible AI, clones for the different permissions of Casper, chosen as a sample vendor by Gartner. I haven't looked into it a whole lot. Fees are auto convertible from fiat, upgradable network without overhaul. It connects into Quant as well. It is heavily involved with Actis and ISO TC68, which I believe has a lot of ties into Quant as well. Accepted into BSN China's network, IPwe is partnered with multiple Fortune 500 firms, and it is a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Innovator Program. So the IPwe news only impacts this one right here in a direct way. And because it is a reorganization where there is still a way for IPwe to continue to operate, and as Casper Kai called out, if IPwe actually tokenizes all of the existing 25 million patents, that will create a lot of liquidity for IPwe to continue to exist and to move on as well. So this was a little bit more on Davos, but it concentrates more on who was involved. So we have UBS, IBM, BIS, JP Morgan, Google, DTCC, T-Mobile, Coinbase, Microsoft, and all of these were involved in Casper events. So this is a little bit more about the impact of Casper and IPwe, but the point is that IPwe is heavily tied into working with companies like Maersk, Deloitte in Japan, and Siemens Energy as well. But IBM is the most valuable one here because they are some of the main technology providers and are heavily working with Casper as well. And if you recall, Casper also works with IBM in AI, and it can actually run on the Hyper Ledger as well, which connects it into a lot of other projects like XLM, HBAR, and also SHX, just off of the top of my head. So here is what has actually happened that makes me think that this whole IPwe thing is not a surprise. So this is from January 1st, and there have been 44,000 deploys on Casper since probably about 24 hours before that. Now, well, no, I take that back. This is from 2 days after that, and they had gone up to 116,000. So there is a lot of activity that has been actually happening on the Casper chain, and I tend to think that that kind of volume is probably coming from IPwe with their patents. Now, there are a lot of people who are watching that, and I haven't really seen a whole lot on that, but there has been some activity there as well over the last 2 months. So there is still a lot happening on the Casper network itself, and I am personally not turned off too much from this IPwe update that we just got.